everybody. Welcome to the Extra Point Show, round 2.
Yeah.
This is
Attempt number
actually-
2 due to
Yeah.
shitty equipment
Yeah.
problems. But,
Exactly.
that's getting worked out. So
It's a work in progress. Obviously, we're still trying our best to bring you, weekly NFL content. And, this week there's a lot to report on again. Actually, we were mentioning this on the other show. It broke right after we filmed last week's show. Just like a couple hours, I think, afterwards. That
well, that wasn't even like the official news. We somehow, I don't even remember where I saw that or how I saw it, but like it didn't really break until the following day, which was insane.
Right.
But yeah, Tom Brady has unretired. We didn't even say
back.
what it was.
He's back. I mean,
a whole 40 days that he wasn't
Yeah.
that he was retired.
Yeah.
I think maybe not. He went home and spent some time with his wife and kids and decided that he would rather be on the football field.
Yeah, rather go get blitzed by 300.
And actually, that is what he was quoted with saying. He said, "These past 2 months, I've realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates and I love my supportive family. They make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. Let's fucking go." And just quick side note, like I was telling you before,
Yeah.
when I see the LFG thing, because I've played a lot of, I played some online games in the past.
Yeah.
I think of looking for group, and it's like ingrained into my head.
Yeah.
So every time I read that in something, I have to like stop and be like, no, that's not what it is.
It's like that's not what Tom's saying.
That's
Tom's
definitely not what Tom's saying.
Tom's found his group.
Imagine if he was, though. Imagine if that's what he meant, looking for group. Like, come on, 49ers. It's my last season, maybe. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Exactly. That would be crazy. I mean, obviously, that's something that we talked about on the previous show. The potential hope that I had that Tom would return to his hometown Niners and win one more Super Bowl with us.
Although, that's not even completely not impossible now. You know what? He might play Tampa the year he's already on contract, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe he won't retire and he'll play another season somewhere else. You never know.
That's true. He is only on. I mean, there's nothing that's saying that his 23rd season is going to be his final season. He's just saying he's coming back for. He's like, we've already got plans for a 24th season down in San Francisco. He's like, I'll honor my contract because I'm a good person, and I'm.
It also makes me wonder if this was some kind of like publicity stunt in a sense, because it was a very, very short time period. Oh, I'm going to retire. And then all of a sudden and he's like literally the biggest name in football. So for him to do something like that is obviously going to garner tons of attention. I mean, maybe Tom genuinely did think he wanted to retire. And, for whatever reasons, maybe he didn't want to hang out with his family. I'm kidding. I'm sure his family is very nice. I'm just joking. But, whatever the reason was, maybe he genuinely had a change of heart and realized he did want to keep playing. But it's a surprising move to see, and a very, it's like a huge 180. It's like, really, you're just completely flipping around in no time.
Yeah,
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's it is interesting. It is, and I mean, obviously, Tampa has said, Tom has been mentioned with speaking with quarterbacks coach down in Tampa, Clyde Christensen, that they're really planning on trying to load up, and with this being the last year they have Tom under contract, trying to win a championship. I mean, some of the moves that they've already made in the off season here. So one of the things they did was they acquired Shaq Mason, the former Patriots offensive guard, for a 5th round draft pick. So getting him because they lost Alex Kappa, one of their top offensive linemen. They're also bringing in former Falcon wide receiver Russell Gage. They franchised Chris Godwin, and then they ended up signing him to a 3-year, $60 million contract. They're bringing in. They re-signed a couple of their key players like Aaron Stinney, Ryan Jensen, as you said, a very unique-looking man.
Oh yeah,
Ryan
that was
Jensen.
on the first attempt. Yes,
Yeah.
I was shitting on Ryan Jensen a tad, I guess. But I mean, I compared him to Joe Jacoby, who was also a rather ugly man as well. But very awesome players. I'm just poking fun at them. They're a little.
Of course. I mean, and as an offensive lineman, I mean, you're doing the dirty work down in the trenches. So
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Got to be a
it kind of makes
nasty
sense.
mauler anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they also re-signed Carlton Davis, who was one of the top corners on the market, to a 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed. And then they brought
I'm sorry. Did you say Carlton Davis?
Carlton Davis? Yeah.
Is that
I
Is
don't
that not the character's name on Fresh
from
Prince?
from I so
Is it, or am I
is it
wrong?
is his last name Davis? I know it's Carlton for sure,
No,
but
it's
is it
Carlton
Davis?
Banks. It's Carlton
Carlton
Banks.
Banks. Yeah,
I just
yeah,
remembered now.
that's right.
Oh God, I was gonna
That
say that'd be hilarious, but
that would have
oh
been.
yeah, it is Banks. Okay.
Getting an interception and then maybe does the Carlton on the field. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be the best thing ever.
That would be. I mean, he could still do it. His name is still Carlton, so
That's true. He could. He could.
yeah. And then they also got another former Patriot, Tom, trying to go on a recruiting spree, getting former Patriot safety Logan Ryan, who spent the last 2 years with the Giants. And then obviously, as we mentioned before, Tom was known to be sneaking into somebody's DMs of a notably released wide receiver recently, and that receiver, of course, being Julio Jones, the one time probably best receiver in the league. Now he's had a couple rough seasons where he's been banged up,
Yeah.
but I mean maybe he can go down there and play in Tampa, and Tom will get the best out of him. I mean, Tom's been known to play with some receivers later.
If any quarterback is going to make a receiver look good, it'd be Tom Brady. Or yeah, give him success. Maybe not look good.
Yeah,
but...
I mean he was feeding Antonio Brown last year. I think Antonio Brown had like 45 catches in just 7 games before that meltdown happened.
Before the meltdown happened, that was just. Yeah, no one's ever going to forget that. That was some of those memes that come out with that. Him holding up the sign, or just gold. Love it.
Exactly. Yeah, so we'll have to continue to see what happens, and I expect Tampa to have a good season. Obviously, the fact that they have Brady back instantly makes them a contender in the NFC again, because we thought they might be moving forward as idiotic as it would have been with Blaine Gabbert. And
that would have been really stupid.
All right, Bruce. Is that your play? Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, from a football fan standpoint, obviously, I think it's a good thing for the game to get Tom Brady back for another season. I think it's going to be more exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I still go back to thinking that retirement thing was maybe somewhat of a publicity stunt.
Maybe
maybe he genuinely had a change of heart. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? But I don't know, man. It feels odd. The biggest player in the NFL retires, then unretires. It's like, I don't know, man. That seems a little fishy to me. But I'm glad to see he is back because, like you said, it'll make it more exciting. It's always fun to watch Tom Brady play. What was especially fun is watching Taylor Heineke beat Tom Brady when I was at that game. I have to say that was one of my favorite things ever. But normally it is nice to watch Tom Brady light it up and, play like he usually does.
Yeah, I mean, and I imagine, getting beat by Matty Stafford. And that game, he almost let him back, that ferocious comeback. They were down, 24-3, and then Tom almost got him back. And that didn't seem like the way he was going to go out. I mean, he last year, I know he's 44, but he led the league in passing yards, completions, touchdowns. It's like the dude's still at the top of his game. I mean, if he would have walked away, he would have walked away still playing the best football of his career.
Absolutely.
And I guess the next thing to talk about would, of course, be the biggest trade of the week. After originally being declared out of the running for Deshaun Watson, completely did a 180. And guess who got traded to Cleveland? Believeland. Deshaun Watson, baby.
Yeah, that was not one of the teams I expected him to go to, given they have Baker Mayfield. And I feel really bad for Baker Mayfield. That man deserves a lot better than that.
I think you're a sadist if you don't feel a little bit bad.
That whole city seems to really love him.
Baker
and
Mayfield.
his commercials he does about, his home being the stadium. I like those commercials. They're cheesy and stupid, but, I like them. They're good.
They evict the man right out of his home. And it's like, it's terrible. It's terrible because, he ended up playing through a myriad of injuries last year. He had a dislocated shoulder. He had lower body injuries. He had all kinds of injuries, and he ended up playing. I think he played in all the games, but maybe 1 or 2. So really gutted it out. And obviously, a lot of people in Cleveland are excited, but yeah, you're right. There's been some backlash from Cleveland fans about,
It's just odd too, what they gave up to get him when they had a quarterback like Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
To give up 3 first-round draft picks in the next 3 years, in addition to a 2023 third rounder and a 2024 fourth rounder. I mean, you already had a good enough quarterback. Like,
Yeah, I
you
mean
know, I
Baker.
just don't
Yeah,
understand the move there. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you there. I think that he definitely deserved better as far as that goes. I mean, he, as far as the Browns go, took them
He
as
took them
far
as
as they've
far
ever
as they've
been.
gone in.
As far as they've been. A deep run into
Yeah,
the playoffs where they got narrowly beaten by the Chiefs. So I mean, guy obviously showed that he could play. I mean, he'd been with the Browns for 4 seasons. When he came in as a rookie in 2018 as the number one overall pick, he had what was then a rookie record. Obviously, Herbert's since come in and broken this record, but he had 27 touchdown passes. His first year, and obviously at this point, he hasn't gotten back to that. But that's still like the career high that he's had. But I mean, last year, let me
but
find
he's still
his.
taking the Browns to good records every year, farther than they've been in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
yeah.
He's done
Last
a lot.
year, and go ahead.
I was going to say, if I was Browns fans, I'd be kind of upset to have a player that's been on your team for that long, like you got as a rookie, that's
Yeah,
done really well for you, to just go and drop all of that to get the hottest new thing that's available, which would be Deshaun
yeah,
Watson. Really, he's been untouchable for a year and a half because of his legal
yeah.
issues that finally
Exactly.
got resolved.
And you haven't seen him play. I mean, let's just go
That
over
too,
Baker.
that too.
So Baker's numbers. He started 59 career games of 60 that he's appeared in. Um,
Damn.
he's
So a
got a
lot of
rec.
those was when he was hurt then, because he was pretty badly hurt.
Yeah, I mean
Last season.
he started 14 of 17 games last year, so he only missed 3 games despite how banged up he was, and he had a 6-8 record last year. Um, but the previous year in 2020 they were 11-5,
Right.
and he had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. This past season he had 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So still more
Yeah.
touchdowns than picks, but
Not a great
obviously,
season though, obviously, but like you got to look at the
right?
injuries. You got to look at the whole picture. You can't just take
Yeah.
the stats and what it appears to be.
Exactly, and for his career, he's got 92 touchdowns to 56 interceptions. So, I mean, he's still, got almost.
Not a fantastic when you compare it to elite quarterbacks, but for someone that isn't
Yeah,
hasn't been in the league for
I
that
mean,
long.
and his record is 29-30. So, I mean, like he hasn't, he's about 500 as far as the record goes. So, I mean, I guess I could see maybe that being the reason why they wanted to move on from him and get Deshaun Watson. I mean, Deshaun Watson, the last time that he did play was 2020, and he led the league in like numerous
Yeah, I
categories,
remember we talked
including
about before.
passing.
There was like
Yeah,
a list of 5 things. It was like first, third,
yep,
third, first.
yeah. He had like
You
a
know,
33-7 touchdown to INT ratio,
yeah.
and then like 4,800 passing yards. So I mean, the Texans had a terrible year,
It's
but
just
I mean,
shocking to
he
see a
was,
team like the Browns that did have a good roster and a good quarterback like that make a move
yeah,
like that. That was like one of the last teams I
yeah,
never would have thought. Like when that
yeah,
dropped, it's like, really?
yeah, and then for them to go ahead and pay him what they are,
Yeah,
which is
and the amount of picks and just the
yeah,
obscene price tag in general, it just doesn't make sense for a team that went 11-5, 2 seasons ago. Last
yeah. I
season
mean,
not as good, but Baker was banged up, so you gotta look at things in the full picture, not
yeah,
just
and
what the
they
end
had other
result
injuries
was.
too. I mean, they had
Right.
Odell was out for a number of times, and then when he
Hmm.
came back, there was obviously the whole issue with him and that whole distraction thing. So
Right. Right.
the Browns definitely weren't at full capacity. I mean, this is still a roster that's very talented, but then you take this new contract that he has. This what is it? A 5-year, $230 million,
I think
fully
so.
guaranteed. Yeah, it's fully guaranteed though. That's the real notable thing.
All of it? I thought only part of it was fully guaranteed.
No, the full contract is fully guaranteed, all 230 million. It's the first
So what if
contract
he gets
in
hurt in the
NFL.
first season and breaks his his
Yeah,
fucking
I mean,
leg?
then Cleveland just made a terrible mistake if that were to happen.
Oh
So
wow, that's insane.
yeah, and I
Oof.
mean he was close to being traded to he had just met with the Falcons and the Saints and the Panthers. But obviously deciding to go back to the Browns, and I would agree with that. I mean, of those teams, I think that they probably have the most talent. But
Yeah.
I mean, he takes up like 28% of their salary cap. They already have, elite pass rusher Myles Garrett. They're going to have to give, if they want to get David Ajoku to a long-term contract, they're going to need to offer him some money because they just got him on the franchise tag. So I mean, he's taking up like 28% of the team's salary cap on that fully guaranteed deal. So I mean,
Right.
hopefully it works out. It seems like they're in like win now mentality.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's kind of like the Rams move. It's like, well, even though they had a decent, above average quarterback and a good team, they're going for broke. They're just going to throw every pick they have and hope that
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson can take them to a Super Bowl. But I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of more interested to see what happens to Baker Mayfield. Like,
Yeah. I would
are they
agree.
going to keep him as a backup? Which I don't really see
I
that
I couldn't
personally.
see that
I
happening.
really don't see that
You think
happening.
Baker would want to stay there after
No,
this?
absolutely
I
not.
mean,
I wouldn't if I was Baker. I mean,
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe Indy. There's a couple other teams that need quarterbacks
Yeah,
as well.
and then
The
any of those teams
Steelers,
that we just mentioned, obviously Carolina could be in the running. The
Carolina,
Falcons.
right, right.
The Falcons did just restructure Matt Ryan's deal, but obviously, they restructured it to. I think they reduced it to like 14 million as far as this cap hit for this season. Obviously, yeah,
Sounds like they might try and draft somebody then at that.
Yeah.
If they're probably going to stick with him, but as their starter, but maybe go for
Yeah,
somebody.
and then since we reported on the last show, obviously Mitchell Trubisky got signed by the Steelers on a 2-year deal. So he's out of the running.
What's his nickname, David?
Yeah, the biscuit. Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky, the biscuit. Yeah, old biscuit getting signed to be
That
potentially the starter
always
down
just
in
cracks me up. That is one of
down
the
in
funniest. The biscuit.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Washington wanted the biscuit, but I'm actually happier with Carson Wentz than him.
I think
Absolutely.
Wentz has a better upside, and I mean he's just as mobile, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as those ankles hold up.
As long as those ankles hold up. But they were sprains. We remember we talked about this. I remember thinking it was like worse than it was, but they were just sprains.
And a low ankle sprain, not the dreaded high ankle sprain.
Yeah, you do not want that high ankle sprain that Jimmy's was dealing with.
High ankle sprain will put you out 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens to Baker. I don't think he's going to be around, and because the reason I say that is the Browns made a corresponding move when they traded backup quarterback, who would have been on the depth chart number 3 quarterback, Case Keenum, to the Buffalo Bills for a 7th round pick. Obviously, the Bills need a new backup because they just lost the biscuit, as we mentioned.
Right.
And then the Browns, in a corresponding move, signed former Dolphin and Colt Jacoby Brissett. So obviously,
okay. I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah. So
I don't remember us talking about it.
Coming in. So I think that all but signifies Baker being out.
I definitely didn't know that. I didn't know. For some reason, I guess that one skipped by me. I did not hear that one. Yeah, that's crazy. If they picked up another backup, Baker's definitely gone. I'm curious when that's going to happen. Yeah, like that's the news I'm now the most excited for at this point. I want to see what happens.
You've got Baker and the Jimmy news. Everybody else has been.
Of course, Jimmy as well.
All the other quarterback pieces have fallen. I think he's staying at this point.
I think he's staying too. I kind of hope so. I hope he's staying. Yeah. I mean, given the injury and the surgery, I feel like if anyone's going to have to, roll it out with him, it's going to be, the team that already has him, obviously.
So here's the reasons why I'm okay. And I know we've talked about this, but here's the reasons why I'd be okay with that. So who knows the offense better than Jimmy? Like nobody at this point.
Nobody.
Like I mean, he's obviously taken that offense, and not by himself. Like I'm not saying, but with like he's run that offense efficiently enough to get the team.
There's a lot of upsides to keeping him, depending on like what the cost is and things like that. I mean, given if he knows they're trying to move on from him, maybe they can come to. If nobody does pick him up, they can come to some deal where he's still the starting quarterback. But then him and Trey Lance, I would assume it being another season of the two of them, Trey Lance would get a lot more snaps, and Jimmy probably wouldn't play as much as long as Trey was healthy. And I think that would probably be the smartest thing to do for another season.
Maybe roll Jimmy out for like the first 3 or 4 games, like sometimes teams do, and have him start, and then you gradually transition. Especially if you have an early bye, sometimes teams will do it during the bye week, and they'll make that transition. But yeah, I mean that'll be interesting to see where Baker does end up. Obviously.
Yeah, I got to say, that's the most interested to see where he ends up because I like Baker. He's a solid player. He seems like a good, solid guy. He's taken the Browns, a team of complete obscurity, actually somewhere, which is good for them. I mean, being a Redskins fan or, Commanders fan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm used to losing my entire life, but there was apparently these times, like right before, right after I was born, where we did win a lot, but I haven't experienced that. So anytime a team that's, generally a losing team does well, like, the Lions, Browns, Lions haven't had that yet, but I know we both hope one day
Yeah.
that the Lions get
Maybe
into the
maybe
playoffs at least.
maybe Baker goes to the Lions. Maybe the Lions aren't sold on Goff.
Oh, that would
I don't
be.
think the Lions are that committed to
That's
Goff.
actually a good idea. I would think that'd be smarter because Goff, I don't think is really that good. I
I
think
mean,
Baker's better than Goff.
I like playing Goff twice a season. I tell you what. Yeah. And speaking of former Rams quarterback or Rams quarterbacks, the next thing to address here is Matty Stafford got his money, signing a 4-year, $160 million contract that includes $135 million guaranteed and a
Yeah,
$60 million signing
no,
bonus.
no surprise really there, given
Yeah,
they just won the Super Bowl. And Matt Stafford has always been a good quarterback. Just being on the
you
Lions his
got to
whole
lock him
career,
up.
he
Yeah,
was been real tainted by that. But
right,
yeah, he deserves
right.
that money. No surprise that they did that. If
Yeah,
they didn't, they'd be kind of stupid, honestly.
absolutely, absolutely. And then just obviously that's not great for the Niners because
No.
but they did lose Von Miller and but they did gain Allen Robinson. But then they did also lose Robert Woods to the Titans. So they're getting some guys. They're losing some.
And you know what? There's a lot of time left, man. Like,
Yeah,
that's the thing with these early speculations. Like, shit's gonna change. Still gonna be
yeah,
a lot more additions, maybe some more
absolutely.
losses. So
Yeah, yeah. And then I almost forgot to mention. So had this idea for a segment today, and we started talking about it a little bit before about the kind of the Browns' futility and carousel that is the quarterback position that's been going on here. And I was talking to my buddy Flynn about this because he's a Browns fan um, just earlier today. And we just looked at since '99, not the entire history of the Browns, but since '99 alone, when the Browns came back as an expansion team after they originally, when Art Modell took the former Browns to Baltimore. I know we've talked about that before. I filled you in on that, and they became the Ravens.
yeah.
So the whole city of Cleveland hates Art Modell. They wanted him to die. Cleveland has a very passionate fan base, and then, but yeah. So as with often the expansion team in the draft, they started out with the number one overall pick. So what this segment is we're going to kind of get into some names here. Most of these names, most of you, unless you're really hardcore football fans, have probably never heard of because they are absolutely not household names.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna go ahead and say it. Just go out on a limb. I probably will not know majority of these names. Maybe
Probably
like
not.
maybe like 3 or 4,
Probably not.
maybe 5 is like what I'm thinking. But yeah, we'll see.
I
How
bet
many
that I
are you gonna go
probably
down all 31? Or is that what you're planning? Going down all 31 names?
just real quick. I'm just gonna go through a quick list here, but
I
I'm
mean,
not
you could
gonna
just
get
put
it.
the list on. You could just put the list on the screen instead of
Yeah,
reading
yeah,
off all 31 names.
yeah. We could do
Just a
that.
suggestion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, because of the now what'll be with Deshaun Watson becoming the 32nd quarterback to start for Cleveland, assuming that all goes well and he is the opening day starter. Um, I mean, I guess it could be Jacoby Brissett, and it would still be 32 at that point. But yeah, so of the I think the Browns definitely have the most in the league, but now they have Deshaun Watson, who is by far the most talented quarterback that they've ever had, in the history of that franchise. I think without a doubt.
Yeah, and to have 31 from 99, and they had Baker for like 4 years. So
Yeah,
if you take off four years, like 2018, so that's from like 99 to 2018. That's like almost two starting quarterbacks a season.
yeah, and a lot of these guys. Okay, so the first one was Tim Couch, who they selected first overall. He got a number of snaps there. I'm only going to talk about the really notable ones here. Most of the other ones there, Jeff Garcia, former Niners quarterback,
Oh, okay.
started for them for about a season and a half. But it was after his Niners days and Lions days, so it was kind of at the tail end of his career. Trent Dilfer, former Ravens Super Bowl quarterback, former Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Okay, well, I
Uh,
know two already so far, so
yeah. Charlie Fry, I know you wouldn't know him. Derek
nope.
Anderson actually had one good season, got himself a contract extension, and then pretty much never got heard of again. Ken
Yeah, I
Dorsey,
never heard of him.
former University of Miami backup. Brady Quinn went to Notre Dame. He's more known as an analyst now. You've probably seen him doing like
The
post-game
name the
stuff.
name sounds like slightly
Yeah,
familiar.
yeah.
Brady Quinn. Yeah.
Colt McCoy, who's still making a living in the NFL.
Definitely no Colt McCoy.
He just signed a 2-year contract extension with the Cardinals. Brandon Whedon was their former first overall pick, who really was maybe one of the worst picks that they ever made. Thad Lewis, I know you wouldn't have heard of him. Jason Campbell, former Redskins starter.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, of course I know that one.
Yeah. Former Niner and Patriot backup, current Patriot backup, Brian Hoyer. Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football.
Okay. All right, okay.
Yeah. Josh McCown. They earlier had Luke McCown, so that's interesting. They had both of the McNown brothers start at completely different parts of their career.
All right, I do know most of those. There's a couple in there that I haven't heard, but I know most of those, and I'm sure there's plenty in there. There's a lot of other names, and I'm sure I wouldn't.
I know you know this next guy here on the list, Robert Griffin III.
Oh yes, of course I know him.
Robert had a brief one-season run under the Hugh Jackson Browns. Deshaun Kaiser, Kevin Hogan, Tyrod Taylor, who just signed with New York. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, and then either the next, TBD, either Deshaun Watson or Jacoby Brissett.
Actually, I knew like 90% of those, honestly. So
yeah. I mean, I bet you didn't know like the Spurgon win. Well, you might have
of course
from
not.
the top,
or like Charles Fry or whatever the one you said.
Charlie Fry. You might have known Spurgon win because he was actually in the Tom Brady draft. That fool. The Browns drafted him in like the second or third round when Tom Brady was sitting there in the 7th. I was like, oh my goodness. So the Browns, by far, the most carousel of quarterback positions, since 1999. I know we went through Washington's and they're at 25.
That was my rebuttal. I was like, well, how many has Washington had? Because I know it's a lot too.
Yeah,
it was like 25 or so.
We'll have to do that on a later episode as well, and go through that and just kind of see.
Yeah,
because I know a couple of them are the same. Like Jason Campbell was on both teams.
Yep.
RG3 was on both teams. Yeah. A couple of those guys are former Niners too, like Ken Dorsey,
Kirk Cousins,
and Jeff Garcia.
Mark Brunell, and then had a lot.
Exactly.
Alex Smith.
Yep, Alexander.
Yeah, we'll go through those another day. I don't know why. I don't know why I just started listing them off.
Oh, we will indeed. And then just to get into some of the biggest deals of free agency so far, I think that the biggest one was actually a trade that turned into a new contract. But obviously, Aaron's going to be without his top weapon as Devante Adams heads west to Las Vegas, and the Raiders are acquiring Adams from the Packers in exchange for their 2022 first round and second round picks, which end up being the 22nd and 53rd picks in this upcoming draft next month. Upon the trade, he did sign a new 5-year, $141 million deal. So I think that's going to be an average of $28 million a season, which will make Devante the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. So what do you think about that move, bud?
I mean, I know Derek Carr is probably really happy about it.
Derek Carr is
he's gonna. I mean, other than the cost to the team, because obviously that is never really helpful. But to have a player like him, Derek Carr is really happy, and Aaron Rodgers is over there right after he signed that 5-year. Was it $200 million?
Crying, man, yeah.
He is
$4
pissed.
$200 million. Yeah.
Aaron probably went in there to the GM's office. It was just like, really? I come back, I sign a deal, and you get rid of my favorite receiver?
Yeah. So there was actually a rumor, and obviously, who knows how much truth there is to this, but there was actually something said that while it was being negotiated for Aaron's new contract, that the Packers and Aaron knew that Devante would never play another snap for the Packers again. And I guess part of that was the fact that Devante said he was never going to play on the tag. The Packers tagged him. He wasn't planning on playing on the franchise tag. So, yeah, I mean, who knows?
All right, well, that makes sense, I guess, then.
Yeah. Who knows how much of that is accurate. And, but yeah.
I mean, I would think it sounds like that would be accurate. That sounds more believable than, I'm sure they did. I think they pissed off Aaron enough in the past that before he made that contract signature, he probably was aware of the move.
I mean, Devante and Aaron are close friends. So, I mean, you think they probably would have.
So they probably were aware of what was happening and, made their own decisions regardless.
Yeah.
But you can just imagine, it would be really funny if Aaron did just find out, after he signed the contract. They're like, oh, yeah, hey, by the way, Devante Adams is going to the Raiders.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
See you for the next 5 years, buddy.
He still does have Big Bobby Tonyan as tight end, and Alan Lazard just got re-signed. Is his number 2 receiver. So, and then they do have those picks 22 and 53. So you got to figure, maybe they look at a receiver this year's got a
I
pretty
would
good.
imagine so. I would think that'd be their first pick. Given that, yeah.
There's Chris Olave, there's Drake London, there's a lot of good receivers out there in this year's draft. So
I hope that Washington goes for a receiver first. If we have Heineke and Heineke and Wentz.
Yeah.
Now that we have the two of them, I think going after a player like that would be helpful to pair with Terry. Unless we can pick somebody up in free agency, then maybe target the defense or something like that.
True.
It really depends what we can't get in free agency, what we'll go after in the draft.
A lot of the good receivers are, like we mentioned, Allen Robinson. He former Bears receiver. He just re-signed. Or he just signed with the Rams on a 3-year deal. So a lot of the good receivers that were available are starting to, Chris Godwin was available. He re-signed with Tampa. Cole Beasley got released. I mean, he could be a good slot guy. I could see him.
Yeah, we already got Humphreys, and Humphreys got re-signed a while ago, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're good. Humphreys, that route he loves. He's fantastic at that route.
Plus, even if Humphreys gets hurt, you guys still have Dax Milne. Who could also play that slot.
And then hopefully Curtis Samuel, is healthy for the first time ever.
Absolutely.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of free agency, nobody hit free agency. Nobody hit the free agency pipe quite as hard as the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The free agency pipe.
token on that free agency pipe. The Jacksonville Jaguars are spending
doing lines in the free agency.
Yeah, exactly. They did about $259.5 million of free agency in just the first couple days alone. Now,
are you serious? That's a real number.
$259.5 million is the estimated total. Yes, that is what.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, that's what it is, bud.
I know we went over the moves they made, but I don't think you mentioned that it was that much.
Yeah, I don't think I had the number. That's why
How are they not well over the cap?
Because it's structured over the course. So let me break this. So
I see. Because over the next few years, the way that they get paid, I see.
That's just what they've spent. So Christian Kirk, former Arizona Cardinals number 2 receiver, who I think's always been better as a number 2 or number 3 receiver. They signed him to wide receiver 1 money, 4 years, $72 million. Brandon Scherf. Took him right away from Washington. 3 years.
I can't believe he took less money to go there than staying with Washington. What the hell, man?
Yeah, I know. He was offered more money to stay in Washington, and he declined that shit. So that's insane. They've got a linebacker, Foye Alujakan, on a 3-year, $72 million deal. Cornerback Darius Williams on a 3-year, $30 million deal. So that's $10 million a season. Defensive tackle from the Jets, Foley Fatukasi on a 3-year, $30 million, and then they got former Raider receiver, so another receiver to help out young Trevor Lawrence, Zay Jones on a 3-year, $24 million, and then another one other than Scherf that you're most pissed about was Evan Ingram, 1 year, $9 million, losing him.
Oh yeah, I'm much more pissed about Scherf than Evan Ingram. But I just really thought Evan Ingram would be. Yeah, I was really with Logan Thomas and him. Now it sounds really great, but I'm sure there's other options that we can find hopefully for tight end.
Yeah,
because we need a second tight end. That's
John Bates could end up being that guy.
Maybe, but he seems to be really good at blocking, but less good when it comes to the catching game. And it's really hard to find a tight end that's good at both. I mean, as you know, those tight ends are rare. You get
move tight end. Yeah, I know.
George Kittle, he's good at all of it. Or even Travis Kelce's more of a pass catcher, but he's a good blocker also. Yeah, there you go. So, finding tight ends like that is tough. Even Logan Thomas is a bit more of a pass catcher probably than a blocker. But, I don't mind having a tight end that's better at one than the other. That's fine.
Right.
It's just when you have 2 tight ends that are both really good. But you are right. John Bates could be really good in the blocking game. But I want to have a second tight end, to go with the passing game because that just adds a good element.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then let's just hit on a few of these other ones before we move on here. We've also got Von Miller leaving the NFC West to head east to Buffalo on a 6-year, $120 million deal, which was reported by Rappaport. Contract includes an average of $17.5 million per year, and then $51 million in guarantees. So Von Miller cashing in after his second Super Bowl win, after he was traded midseason from Denver. And yeah, it's good to have him go to Buffalo, so we won't have to see him twice a year. But obviously, a good team in Buffalo
Yeah.
getting even better. So I mean, they're obviously got to be
Yeah.
favorites to win the AFC again. Remember how
Oh
bad
yeah.
they destroyed the
Easily.
Patriots in the playoffs? Remember that shit?
Oh, that was really, really. It was like
It was that
46
perfect.
to
Yeah, it was
like
that
3
perfect
or
game
some
where they
shit.
had like
Like,
8 drives and they scored 8
oh, was it
touchdowns. Like,
0? Oh,
no,
I
no,
thought you said. Oh, you mean perfect
no,
game where
no.
they scored every time. What did the Patriots score though? Like under
13,
10 at
I
least,
think.
right?
Yeah, no, it
13.
was like
Okay, all right.
13.
It was
Yeah,
really low, but yeah, I remember.
yeah,
I
it was
couldn't
like
remember the exact score.
Bill got humbled a little bit. It was sad.
But they had
Kind of.
46, right? The
Yeah,
Bills had
yeah.
46 points. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
At least I got that part.
Yeah.
I do remember watching that game though.
It's a hell of a game. Hell of a game. It
Yeah.
was beautiful to watch that offensive execution. It was just flawless. But yeah,
It was. It was.
and then the other pass rusher. So we lost a great. Actually, we lost 2 great pass rushers from the NFC West. Also, Chandler Jones, former Cardinal, who just picked up 10.5 sacks last year with the Cardinals, is signing with the Raiders. So that's interesting. Yeah, how do the Raiders have this much money? So they just signed Devante.
Yeah.
They just signed Max Crosby to $98 million. And then they signed Chandler Jones to, I think it was like a $52 million contract. Like, what are
You know,
the
some of
Raiders
these
doing
these
with
these
that?
things that they're structuring to like
Yeah,
right now where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay.
They push
They're
a
gonna
lot of
get
the money to the
fucked.
back end. I know.
Yeah, they're gonna
That's
get
always what they're
fucked
doing.
later
They're always
on.
like,
That's what's gonna happen.
yeah, yeah. I know that's how a lot of them are structured, because they're like, okay, so we'll push money to the back end of the contract, and then they'll think that they'll get out of it, or they'll restructure
Yeah,
that
I don't
down
know
the road.
why they're doing that,
Yeah,
but
the
it
fucking
is
cap
what it
wizards
is.
over there. But yeah, I know the Saints are getting closer to being at the salary cap. I think they're only about $3 million over right now, but they've had to restructure about everybody under the sun. So
Mm.
yeah, it's been a rough state of affairs. Free agency is underway. Nothing really too big has happened today here on Sunday, but obviously I think the biggest thing of the week was the Deshaun trade.
Well, and Tom Brady unretiring. Although that, yeah,
Yeah.
those
Good
2
point.
things absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh well, also we didn't even mention Carson Wentz also was traded. Jesus, we were going to mention it obviously in the Commanders segment, but I forgot we didn't even bring it up actually,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah, and
that is
we-
also news outside of just Commanders.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
he was acquired in a trade with the Colts, along with a 2022 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2022 3rd-rounder and 2023 3rd-rounder, which can convert to a 2nd-rounder based on Wentz's snap totals. So kind of like his deal in Indianapolis, depending on how much he plays.
Yep.
How much, what the compensation is like. But yeah, that's an interesting move to see. The Commanders definitely needed a quarterback, so I'm
Yeah.
happy, to see them
And the
to get
the
someone.
cost was very bearable, I think. I don't think
Exactly.
that- yeah.
Like we'll get
obviously-
more into that here in a minute with
Yeah.
the Commanders segment, but
Absolutely.
I wanted to at least mention it.
Yeah, but the quarterback spots are filling up now. Like as we mentioned, like we're really down to 2. It's Baker.
Mhm.
It's the Baker and the Jimmy. It's gonna.
Yeah,
it's
the
what's gonna
Baker and the
happen.
Jimmy show.
The Baker and the Jimmy show. Yeah.
All right, so we have some big news in the Commanders front. Not necessarily the most positive news, but it is news nonetheless, so I feel it should be covered. Anheuser-Busch ends the Washington Commanders sponsorship, and they are one of the biggest sponsors of the NFL. And for some reason, they have decided to stop their sponsorship with them. And they didn't actually release any explanation as to why it was, but there is a lot of speculation that it has to do with, the investigations into Dan Snyder.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Huh. Well, that's not. I mean, obviously they're going to lose revenue based on that. I mean, does it project like what they're estimated to lose?
No, I haven't seen anything about that. I mean, I assume it probably wouldn't be very much because, like it said, they are one of the biggest NFL sponsors. So just because they're not sponsoring one team, I really don't think it's going to affect them. And they're a massive company, so they can probably do whatever they want. But apparently, they were one of several companies targeted by former employees of the team who are demanding transparency in the ongoing investigation of sexual harassment within the organization. So that may have something to do with it.
Okay. Okay. Well,
But,
go ahead.
I was going to say, apparently 2 other sponsors have also cut ties with them as well, but they're much smaller sponsors. I'm not actually sure which 2 they were. But Anheuser-Busch is a massive company, very prominent in American sports. So for them to drop their sponsorship is really, really bad news for Dan Snyder personally, but also, I mean, the team itself.
Right,
Dan Snyder is still the owner as of now, but like, as most fans, probably feel, no one likes Dan Snyder. He's been terrible for the organization since he's been the owner. Like, we all obviously love the team, but like, man, Dan Snyder, it makes it really, really tough.
Yeah.
And then especially with this sexual harassment stuff coming up, and then we already had FedEx and Nike threaten to drop the sponsorship when they didn't change the name, or if they didn't change the name, and then they did change the name, and then now after all of that, we still have a sponsor like Anheuser-Busch, which is not as big as FedEx because they obviously sponsor the stadium, or Nike, but a massive sponsorship.
Right.
So I don't know what that means. It may mean Dan Snyder being ousted eventually. I mean, I know most people would probably be happy with that. That also does depend on who takes over. But shit, can it get much worse?
As long as it's not the contingent of Antonio Brown, Kanye West, and that group, I think you'd be fine.
Yeah. There's actually some comments I saw on the article about this the sponsorship dropping that I thought were kind of interesting or funny. I don't know. A lot of negativity, obviously, towards Snyder, which I know everyone pretty much feels the same in that sense. But one of the comments is interesting. The same company that sells products that contribute to heart and liver disease, other various ailments, violence, drunk driving. Way to take a stand, guys. Like, which is actually kind of a good point. It's like.
Yeah. It's like you guys are an alcohol, distributor.
Right. It's like, come on, guys. Like, you're really going to try and, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Dan Snyder was probably liquored up on your beer, when he made those sexual advances. Honestly, let's not be coy. And I was actually pulling up the list of I was like, okay, so what beers does Anheuser-Busch even make? And honestly, the list is fucking immense.
Oh, dude, it's tons of them.
So there's the obvious ones, like your Bud Light, your
Bud Light, Budweiser, yeah.
Budweiser,
but there's
exactly.
So many more.
But yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of them. Like they make Land Shark, Johnny Appleseed, Goose Island Brewery. They've got a few. They do King Cobra, a few of the different malt liquors.
That's weird. The biggest thing is Bud and Bud Light, like Budweiser. To not have
Top.
Budweiser available in Shock Top, well, I don't know. Is Blue Moon not then? Blue Moon might be different then.
No,
they could probably provide that. But they are going to have to go through all this bullshit to try and get other sponsors to bring in beer that's, it's not Budweiser. Maybe they get Miller or Coors or, whatever. But it's not going to be necessarily the same thing. And it's just a big headache for the team. And I don't know. It's just bad news, man. I'm looking for, I want some better news in this, but I feel like until Dan Snyder is gone, it's going to be shit like this is going to keep happening.
Yeah, I mean, we felt like it was close. I mean, there were all the reports that maybe him and Stephen Ross, the Dolphins owner, were both going to get maybe ousted in the same week, and then
like a couple weeks ago or a month ago, there was like a lot of
like all the owners are getting fired.
But you know what? With this happening, with them dropping the sponsorship, it feels like pressure might be mounting, and as time goes on. Yep. Maybe before the season starts. And I know, obviously, it really does depend on what the other owners in the NFL decide on. It's not like it's up to the public or what we think. Really doesn't. It doesn't matter. But if the other NFL owners get to a point where they're sick and tired of it and feel like it's time for him to move on, then maybe that'll happen. And I, for one, would be very happy about that. But like you said, though, as long as it's not Kanye West and, whoever else.
Antonio Brown. That guy would make a mockery of an NFL team. Like, I'm not saying that players should absolutely get an opportunity. I just don't know if that investing group is the group that should
get
the opportunity.
Well, I just wanted to cover that real quick. Like I said, not the best, not the best news. But I mean, if it leads to Dan Snyder being, taken out as the owner, then it might be really good news.
Could end up
because I know most of us are really, really sick of Dan Snyder, and I've tried to give him a chance here, and he did say he never changed the name, and he did actually seem to mean that until the main sponsors that literally keep the team alive decide to drop out. Like, I don't blame him for the whole name change thing, but there's so much other shit that he's done that makes him terrible that doesn't even matter. It's like, okay, you did one thing right to the best of what you were able to do. Because if he kept the name, he would have had to sell the team, and then the name would have got changed anyway. So, like, if there's one thing I can say good about Dan Snyder is his stance on the name, and even that hurts to say because he's so terrible. I don't even want to compliment him. Ugh.
I don't even want to give him credit.
All right, well, that's the end of that segment. Hopefully we'll have some better news in the Commanders front later on.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Commanders Countdown. Not a whole lot of news this week. There was some kind of not so great news in the Anheuser-Busch company dropped the sponsorship with Washington. I did cover that, or we cover that in another segment if you're interested to hear about that. It's a little more of a negative segment, but you can definitely go and check that out if you want. Other than that, the main news, obviously we did cover Carson Wentz last week a little bit. But I figure, we can talk about him a little bit more as time goes on and you look more into the player, your opinions can change. Because last week I know I was kind of initially
we were both kind of more on the fence, yeah.
Yeah, like seeing his stats and all that, you're like, oh man, 27-7, like that sounds, it looks good. And then I read these articles about his personality issues, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like but you don't know what's true. And right. The videos that Washington's posted of like Carson going to DC and various different things, I am optimistic. I'm hoping, given the talent that he has, that he'll be good for us. And the cost we got him for was extremely low.
Hard to beat.
2 third-rounders, which one might convert to a second-rounder based on his snap totals. So, which is a lot like his Indianapolis contract, where depending how much he played, how much he would make. So, I'm happy with the pickup overall now. I mean, obviously everything takes time to set in a bit. With the whole Commander's name, I'm still not completely used to that. But obviously, as the months go on and the years go on, that's going to become normal. So.
Yeah, and I think you gotta like where you're at as far as the position goes. I mean, I remember we talked about it when we were filming the first time around. That you gotta feel better going into this next season. With your depth
absolutely.
Being Wentz and Heineke, rather than last year where it was Fitzpatrick and Heineke.
Well, we didn't really get to see what Fitzpatrick could have done.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I would say. Like, it would have been nice to at least see him play 3 or 4 games to have a judgment on his ability.
True.
But you are right, though. Wentz does seem like he is overall a better quarterback.
I think he's got a better ceiling than I like Fitz.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's also younger. Fitz is pretty old. Carson's, I think he's like 32. I'm totally guessing.
Hopefully Carson stays off.
No, actually, I think he's still in his 20s. I think he's like 28, 29.
Yeah, he's like 28. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, he's not that old. So that's good. He's got a really strong arm, which obviously that's one of the knocks on Heineke.
Yeah.
I know Heineke doesn't have the biggest arm. He doesn't have a noodle arm like a lot of people like to sit there. I really hate those people that just shit on Heineke.
Yeah, I mean, the man's an NFL quarterback. Nobody in the NFL's got a noodle arm. Like, he can make NFL throws.
That kid has the most heart of it doesn't matter. Yes, he has a ceiling. He was 20 for 15 I think last season. Nothing spectacular, but also not completely terrible. He obviously he could start for a team that needs a quarterback, which is what we needed, and he did get us decently far. But I am definitely happier to have Carson Wentz in there and to have Heineke still there as a backup. I hope we keep Heineke for years to come as a backup, because if anything does happen to the quarterback we have, we know that he is a solid enough player to win us some games.
And honestly, what I would like to see more is potentially the option for using him in like a Taysom Hill or like a Mariota package like the Raiders.
I agree. When he's not the starter and he doesn't have to worry about his I mean, he obviously needs to be careful and not get hurt, but you know what I'm saying. He can take a little more risks.
Yeah,
and that too, yeah. Taysom Hill has always been one of my favorite players to watch. Not when he was starting quarterback, because that shit sucked, but when he came in on the specialty plays, I never liked the Saints and never liked Drew Brees, but every time Taysom Hill come out, I'd be like, yeah, Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill's an exciting player, and those guys are exciting to watch. So, I mean, I would like if they added the wrinkle. I also am excited because the more we looked into it, obviously, we've seen conflicting reports where several teammates have come out and they've really stuck up for him. And
that's right. I forgot you had mentioned that. Yeah, I forgot you had said that.
It was Darius Leonard, their star linebacker, and Jonathan Taylor, their top running back. They're like, Carson's my guy. There's also reports that Frank Reich, the Colts coach, called Ron Rivera and said that this was that he stood by Carson and everything. And I think it was more Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, that was wanting to maybe move on from that.
Well, some of the articles that I was reading, these weren't as of just in Indianapolis. This is things from over the years. Like, it wasn't just like this was one just recently that this happened. There's been. But, obviously you have to take things, what you read, and take it with a grain of salt. It may or may not be as true. Maybe he was in an organization that wasn't treating him that well. I mean, you never know. But I am optimistic at this point. He is our quarterback. There's really no point in sitting there and trying to, dwell on the negative aspects that might be there. Right. Yeah. At this point, it's just, look for the best. And given his stats and the type of player he can be, I'm pretty happy about it. And given the cost, I mean, good Jesus, the cost we got him for was just If we had gotten Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson for all those picks, I don't know how I'd feel about that. I don't know. It would really make me really nervous because it would depend on how the next season goes. If we didn't get into the NFC Championship at least, exactly. Yeah. And that's terrifying. Like I don't feel like we're in the point to do that right now. Like, and a person like Carson Wentz with the weapons that we have, I think we could get it done.
Carson's a guy that a couple seasons ago was in the running for MVP. With the
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think it's a good pickup, and obviously that's been discussed that you guys are picking up his entire $28 million contract, which that's still, even as far as quarterback contracts go, nothing crazy.
I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that number. I mean, given his stats last year and his play in the past, he deserves that. And it's not like Deshaun Watson's $46 million, like you said, or Aaron's $50.
Aaron's,
It's like it's about what Jimmy makes, and Carson's probably a better quarterback than Jimmy. So
I'd say so.
So to take $28 million, I'm completely fine with that. Like as I've processed it a bit more, I'm like, okay, you know what? Given the options, it really kind of almost is the best option. Like the front office there kind of made a smart choice. I know when Deshaun, the day after this happened and he was off all his legal issues, I was kind of mad. But now in hindsight, I'm like, no. I don't want three first round picks for the next. No, I don't want to do any of that. I'm good with this move now. I'm happy with it. As long as Carson's not some kind of locker room cancer like some of those articles I was reading, then I'm completely happy with it. But we will see.
I would agree. And then this next guy,
and some other good news. Great news in this one. Thought he was gone, losing J.D. McKissick.
Oh God, that would have
thought the Bills had signed him to a set. I don't know about the most devastating, but it would have been devastating. I was very sad that day.
So far. I mean, I think.
That's true.
Far, yeah.
But he was going to sign a.
Agents they have,
he was going to sign a 2-year, $7 million deal with the Bills, and then within the next 24 hours, Washington apparently offered to match that offer, and J.D. McKissick opted to stay, which is fantastic. Especially because there's always that talk, or at least from some shitty fans, it's like, no one wants to come to Washington. And it's like, well, he clearly just chose to stay in Washington. But then you can look at Brandon Sheriff, who took less money to go to the Jags instead of staying with Washington. So you never know. But Brandon Sheriff is also part of the old regime, and I do feel like there might be some mentality to maybe get rid of some of the players that were there prior to,
I could see
the name change and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, but J.D. McKissick, great pickup. I mean, obviously, you guys, he missed 6 games last year, but he still appeared in 11, started 3, carried the ball 48 times for 212 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and had 43 catches. This is where he really came in and paid dividends.
Yeah, his pass catching ability.
397 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. So, great to have him back because obviously there's, Jarrett Patterson's great, Antonio Gibson's great, but I don't think that anybody does.
We need someone that has the pass catching ability like him. He has that explosive ability to him. There's been, I can't give you like what team it was or where, but there's numerous plays from last season that I can remember where he just goes off.
The Falcons where he won the game.
Was that the one where he ran 60 yards?
Rolled out and had to throw it back.
That was man.
It wasn't like 60, but it was like 40 yards on the last play of the game. And then he made the jump, the dive at the end zone and got it.
He had a couple more too, but that was definitely the best one.
Yeah. I mean that was one of his best plays. But yeah, I mean good to have him back. Obviously, he's an electric player and definitely somebody that you want back.
We also got Cam Sims back, which I'm happy with that. He's done some good for us. He's not. I feel like we can develop him, more as time goes on, hopefully. But he's also been good on special teams.
Exactly, his role on special teams, and then he did add 15 catches last season, 2 receiving touchdowns. So interesting to see what will end up happening. I think that he can be an asset vertically if they start throwing deeper down the field.
Which with Carson Wentz, that seems like a complete possibility. So.
Yeah, I mean.
And imagine Terry and Wentz, man. Terry and Wentz.
Hopefully Scott Turner starts dialing more downfield vertical.
I think he will because I think last year with Heineke as the quarterback, he was tailoring it around what he could do. Tailoring it for Taylor, around what his ability level was.
Exactly. Yeah, I would agree with that. And then they got to replace some of the guys that they lost, because they did lose both of their guards, losing Scherf, obviously, to the Jags, as we mentioned earlier. But they did, and then they also lost Flowers. But they got Andrew Norwell, former Jaguars and Carolina Panthers. So another Panther.
And they got him for what, about half the cost that Eric Flowers would have been for two seasons instead of one?
So Flowers would have been on the next season on the books for $10 million. And they got Norwell on a 2-year deal with $10 million over 2 seasons, $4.7 million guaranteed. So, and Norwell. That's
probably why they released him, is because they needed to save some money, and to get someone like him. I mean, as I said, I'm not too familiar with him, but you were saying he is a pretty solid player.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that really hasn't missed a lot of times or missed a lot of games in his career. I mean, last year he started 17 to 17 games. There's really
that's always great.
There's only been 1, 2, 3. Of his 8 seasons, there's only really been 3 seasons where he's missed considerable time with injury. So he's more or less been reliable and stayed healthy.
That's good.
Which is definitely what you want. Look for him to replace either Flowers or Scherf, depending on whether they put him at left guard or right guard. That remains to be seen. They made another addition along the offensive line, signing backup center Tyler Larson, re-signing on a 1-year deal. So he started 3 games last year after Chase Roulier went down. He was one of the 4 centers.
I'm happy with them bringing him back. He did well with what he had to do. He just getting thrown in and having to start.
He was definitely the second best center they had. So good to see them get some.
We need that depth. Definitely glad to see that. And then we also kept defensive back Bobby McCain, which is definitely one of the best re-signings here. I mean, obviously J.D. McKissick is probably my favorite, but
it was good to get him back. I mean, he had a great season coming over from Miami. I mean, he had 4 interceptions to lead the team. I think he had 1 interception return for a touchdown against the Giants in the last game of the season. I feel like, if I remember correctly.
I think you are correct.
But he's back on a 2-year, $11 million contract, so $5.5 million per season. Obviously, with the expected loss of Landon Collins, it's probably going to be a lot more of Bobby McCain and Cam Curl as the safeties. I know last year they were trying to do like a 3 safety sets before they ultimately moved Landon to linebacker. So
I imagine we might pick up a safety in the draft later in the draft. I think
I could see that for depth,
because Landon did get switched to linebacker. I also think maybe a linebacker could be a later pickup as well because of that.
Yeah, I mean, and as I know we've discussed personally, what they might do at 11. And I think that we're both in agreement that it seems, they got Norwell. He's going to fill one of the guard positions. So it's very likely
got the other one though,
or
receiver, because they need somebody to pair with Terry. But really, what matters is like what they can get in free agency before the draft. If they could have picked up someone like Amari Cooper to pair with Terry, then I wouldn't be so confident that they're going to go with a wide receiver, so early. But if it continues to be the way it is now, with Terry really being the only number 1. I would expect they would probably go with receiver and then maybe a guard second.
Good receivers are like Amari's off the table now. Obviously there's still OBJ, but you figure he's going to come back in this half of the season.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good pick.
Robert Woods just got traded to the Rams or to the Titans. So I mean, Allen Robinson just got signed by the Rams.
So there's not a lot of options left.
There's not a lot of good receivers. Like all the good receivers are pretty much getting snatched up. There's still a few out there, but. I mean, I would look for them to probably attack that position in the draft, unless they're confident
I would say so.
that De'Ami Brown could really be that number 2, but we haven't seen enough.
Maybe. I really think just based on what we've seen last year, they probably will go with receiver, and then their second pick would probably be a guard, or maybe vice versa, depending on the caliber of player that's available at the time. They might flip that, but I would think those would be like the first 2.
Player available, yeah.
Right. Because if they're not going to go quarterback, at some point it's just like, just take the best player that's there.
They could still go quarterback.
They could.
On who's available.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Given the way that this draft class looks, I'd be really surprised. I mean, we got Heineke, amazing, solid backup. Couldn't ask for a better backup, in my opinion. And then we got Wentz, who we don't know how he's going to do, but I'm optimistic about it. So, and he should be able to do better than Taylor did. So, that's something in itself.
Yeah, I think he's got a pretty high upside, so we'll have to follow that and see how it goes. And then also just to really quickly mention the guys that they've lost so far. I know we kind of brought up, Flowers already, But Flowers was released after a really good season. I mean, he started 16 games, and I mean this is the second time in a couple seasons he's been released. He was on the team in 2019 after the Jay Gruden era, and got released after that season when the new regime came in. Came back, got released again. But he was on the.
That's odd that they did that. They released him and brought him back and then released him again.
It's like come back, it'll be different this time.
And then they're like, nah, fuck you, bro. Like,
get out of here. Get the hell out of here.
But they also released Matt Ionitis, which I know a lot of people are probably somewhat sad to see him go. He's been with the team for 6 seasons. But I think the reason that they did this is because it created $16.9 million in available cap space.
Right, yeah, so between that and Flowers' contract, they got out of about $17 million.
Right. So I think that was probably one of the main reasons for that.
You figure a lot of that probably went directly to the Carson Wentz.
I guess, but they had a lot of cap space anyway. I mean, they weren't paying a quarterback much, so I feel like I mean, obviously some of it did, but they might be trying to bolster up other positions. Maybe they think they can, like, I mean, with the Andrew Norwell, they picked him up for half the price of Flowers, so they're trying to make
good players out there.
They're trying to make moves around and maybe get rid of players that are going to cost them too much, and then able to pick up other good players that would cost them less, so they can invest in other things. That's at least what I would think, but you never know how that's going to work out for you. But
yeah, that's true. And then also as far as the defensive line depth goes, I mean, Ionitis had 2.5 sacks. He's a former starter. Last few years, he's been more of a depth player, but I mean, he's a guy that's had 8.5 sacks in the past. They also got rid of Tim Settle, another
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He was good for us. That one.
He's going over to Buffalo. So
they got one guy from us.
Yeah, they didn't get JD, but they got Tim Settle, and
that's
Ionitis is going to the Colts.
Oh, okay. And then there's obviously
I'm sorry. I missed. He's going to the Panthers. That was my mistake.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
So the Panthers are getting one back. And then go ahead about DeShazer.
Yeah, DeShazer obviously not coming back, safety, due to the car accident that he was involved in that resulted in the death of his girlfriend at the time. So I don't think he's going to be back. But yeah, that's about all we got for you this week. I'm sure there'll be some new free agency stuff in the next week to come as we get closer to the draft. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, once all the signings are done in free agency, then that's when I get more into the draft. When everyone starts doing these mock drafts 2-3 months before, it's like, you guys are idiots. Like, you gotta wait until you see what the team. Yeah, you gotta see what they have after free agency, and then you make the mock drafts because then they make more sense. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like I bet if somebody had quarterback on Cleveland's depth chart,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's so many. Yeah, free agency throws a wrench into anything. So when I started seeing the mock drafts, I was like, dude, you guys, come on.
Every mock draft for the Broncos had to have had the Broncos at a quarterback until they got Russell. So
exactly.
It's like now. So
and how many people wasted how many hours making mock drafts for the Broncos drafting quarterback? I'm really curious. Like, how many people did that?
This guy.
Yeah, this guy 0. Yeah, if I do a mock draft, it's like 1 or 2, and it's like I said, it's going to be really close to when the draft starts. Like, it's going to be the week of.
We might do one for the folks here, but why don't you put in the comments who you think the Commanders are going to take at 11? We'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I am curious, definitely. But yeah, catch us next week. Hopefully, we'll have some news. May not be that much because it is the off season, but hopefully there'll be some more free agency signings to cover.
Yep. Take it easy.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Hey, what's going on, faithful? Thanks for joining us on the weekly Niners news update. Today, we're just going to go into, kind of what we've done so far in the free agency period from start to finish. There hasn't been a great deal of signings that we've made. We haven't made a huge splash, not like the Jaguars or anything like that. But we have gotten a couple of key pieces that we wanted to mention here. So we're just going to get into that briefly. First, most notable thing, obviously, as we continue to monitor, as of right now, Jimmy Garoppolo still a part of the team. He has not been, released or traded as of now. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, the amount of potential places for him to end up now are decreasing now that Pittsburgh has come off the option.
There
as
are
far
definitely
as
still
an
places he could go. I mean,
right.
probably Indianapolis and
Indianapolis, potentially Carolina.
Carolina.
If they end up wanting to replace Sam Darnold there. So yeah, there
I'm
are
kind of
definitely
thinking
some
that
landing
I think
spots.
he's probably going to stay at this point with the Niners. But given the surgery he had, it seemed like that made teams a little bit more uneasy about
Hesitant.
trying to hesitant
Yeah,
about trying to sign him. And I think
absolutely.
that I think staying with the Niners would be the best thing at this point. Like,
I think it would be, yeah. I mean, it would be good for all parties as long as we can get him to restructure that, because
yeah,
obviously if he's not projected to be the starter, and we're rolling out with Trey, which I'm pretty sure we are, and I think that's, if Trey's ready, that's probably the right move. But I mean, Jimmy knows the offense. He's been here 4.5 seasons. If we can get him to restructure that cap number, I could see him being a valuable backup. I mean, I certainly like going into next season having Jimmy as our backup better than Nate Sudfeld. I mean, nothing
yeah,
against Nate Sudfeld, but that's certainly
yeah.
an unproven. I mean, at least Jimmy's started 2 NFC Championship games and played in a Super Bowl. So I mean, he's got big game experience, although as limited as he is. But yeah, to kind of get into the additions. Obviously, last week we touched on, like Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles getting re-signed to a 1-year deal. We re-signed Nate Sudfeld, as we previously mentioned. We re-signed JaMychal Hasty on a 1-year extension. But as far as the new players we added, we also tendered Azeez Al-Shire and Danny Brunskill on the offensive line. So good to get both of those guys back because Azeez Al-Shire played his ass off last year when Dre Greenlaw was hurt. So
Yeah, he really
definitely
did.
didn't want
He
to lose.
definitely
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I mean, he really helped his value. I mean, our linebacker core might be the strongest position group on the team between Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shire. And then we've got Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. So we're set at linebacker. And we actually got one. We got another one. Oren Burks from the Packers on a 2-year contract, coming over to probably mainly play special teams. Not a signing that we really needed because, as I mentioned, linebacker was a position we were super deep at anyway.
Yeah, that is
But
an odd thing to go and pick up, but
yeah, I mean,
uh,
but
uh,
his role on special teams, I think that's more what it
oh,
was.
that's
He's
right.
like a
You
special
did
teams
say that. I'm sorry. You
standout.
did say the
Yeah,
special
yeah.
teams thing. I'm sorry.
And our special teams team
That
last
makes
year
sense.
was
Was
kind of a
terrible.
joke.
Was terrible. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
okay, that actually does make sense. That makes sense. I'm seeing linebacker. I'm like, what? Well,
yeah, yeah. Other than when we blocked that punt and beat the Packers on special teams
oh, that was the most
in the
ridiculous
divisional
shit
round,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
seen in a long
Yeah, I mean
time.
that was the only time our special teams worked out in our favor, and that's only because the Packers
Packers
special
should have
teams
won that game, but
even worse than ours. Yeah, I know.
oh,
It's
that was
crazy.
so
I mean,
funny.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad they didn't though. I'll take it all
Of
day.
course not. Of course not. Just saying. Like,
That's why
other than that,
football's
they
a
would have
team
won that
sport.
game.
Yeah, yeah. And then another special teams move we made. I'm really excited about this one. We got Ray McLeod from the Steelers, who led the NFL in punt return yards last year. Also
I like
caught,
his name, Ray McLeod. Like he
yeah,
sounds like a fighter pilot or something. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like he's going to be maybe soaring to the skies and maybe running a few
Hopefully,
plays
running
back
for
for
some
us.
like 95-yard touchdown returns. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, and he also has a role as a receiver. He caught a career high for passes in Pittsburgh last year. I want to say it was 37 passes, if I remember correctly. So obviously, the amount of yards he got off that weren't great. He only averaged like 7.1 yards a carry. But like we had mentioned before, he was used for a lot of screens. And the thing about those wide receiver screens is they can either work out real good or they can get blown up for a
Yeah,
loss of
or you lose
negative
a whole
yards.
bunch of yards. Yeah.
So you're unless you're Debo Samuel, your yards per carry or yards per catch isn't going to be phenomenal if you're getting those Cordero Patterson type passes thrown your way. Which I don't know why offenses are so set on running those. Most of the time they don't work. But
I know, right?
excited to have him because between him and Oren Burks, our special teams unit does seem to get better. Don't know what this means for Richie James Jr., who missed the entire last season, but he is our usual return guy, so we'll have to see what ends up happening there. And last one to mention here, the one that I am most excited about. Corner was definitely the Niners' biggest need going into the offseason. We needed a good corner to pair with Emmanuel Mosley, and we got one in Charvarius Ward. We signed him to a pretty extensive 3-year, $40.5 million deal.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but I'll tell you why I'm okay with that. Based off this, I looked at some numbers here, and this guy, as far as how he was rated, was off the chains in several key NFL
Oh yeah,
defensive
you were telling
categories
me
here.
about this. It's like
Yeah,
he's like
yeah,
ridiculously good.
yeah. So his numbers here, rankings go where he finished in the league last year was completion percentage allowed, 40%. He was first. Expected completion percentage against him, 46.6%, which was first. Yards per target, given up 4.6 yards, third in the NFL. Passer rating, 52.5, which was third. And then tight window rate, which was the rate of coverage that he was within 1 yard of separation of the defender. So that was 46.7% of the time, which was good for first in the NFL. So he was tearing it up for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he is a guy that's gotten better. You know, in the 4 seasons he's been with Kansas City, he's gotten better each year. So very excited to have him, especially, you know, pairing with Emmanuel Mosley. And if we're able to keep K'Wan Williams as our nickelback, you know, our cornerback room looks a whole lot better. We're probably not going to be retaining Jason Verrett, who, you know, missed all but one game last year. But, I mean, he's always had a bunch of injury issues anyway. So certainly excited to see what he can do. And, you know, obviously that was a position we had to address. And we did, because we don't have a first-round pick. So
I would say that's definitely the best pickup that you guys have had so far, based on after you telling me his stat, because I didn't know. But
I would grade that as an A for sure.
Yes, that is an A for sure. That is absolutely an A. I mean, yeah, it costs money to get a good player, but yes, that is a very good pickup. Definitely my favorite one.
Yeah, you address a position of need, and then, you know, like it's your biggest position of need, and then, you know, like
you spend the money. You spend the money to get that position taken care of.
Exactly.
That's what you have to do, really.
Yeah, and of course it's not all without, you know, loss, of course, as the Niners did lose some notable players, especially to Mike McDaniel's Miami Dolphins. You know, former.
Yeah, he's just snatching them up, and then you got Robert Salah also snatching them up too.
Couple former Niners assistants, you know, robbing us blind here. You know, we had Raheem Mostert, which is, I think, the most notable one, leaving on a
Raheem the Dream, don't go.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know how we couldn't have matched this. I mean, maybe we just didn't want to, but he signed a 1-year, $3.12 million deal with the Dolphins.
How is it that low? And I don't get it.
He's obviously got a lot to prove coming back. He's been injured a lot lately. It's a prove it deal,
but like the Niners didn't want to match that. Like I'm surprised. I'm very surprised.
It tells me that, you know, Kyle's, you know, confident moving forward with
Elijah Mitchell
and also JaMychal Hasty, who was re-signed. Jeff Wilson's also a free agent. I don't know if we're going to bring him back yet. We haven't so far.
Well, the first 3 you said have all actually looked good in the times that they've gotten play time. They've shown all bright spots at various times. So
yeah, JaMychal's our little receiving back. He's like our little, you know, to a lesser degree, our J.D. McKissick. You know, he's our receiving back. And then we also lost backup special teams receiver Trent Shearfield to the Dolphins as well. He was with us for 1 season after coming over from the Arizona Cardinals. I really liked him. I mean, he didn't, you know, make a ton of plays for us, but he was a good presence on special teams. As we've mentioned before, we lost River Craycraft also to the Miami Dolphins. So that's 3, plus receivers coach Wes Welker and former coach Richard.
Man, he just came in and said, "Fuck San Francisco, come on to Jacksonville." Not Jacksonville, Miami.
Might as well, come play in the you know, sunny weather of Miami. And then, you know, speaking of former Niners assistants, we lost Laken Tomlinson on a 3-year, $45 million deal, which is expected to be about $14 million annually. I mean, Laken played his ass off. He made the Pro Bowl last season, had a great season. Kind of probably priced himself out of our market, so that was unfortunate. But I've heard reports that the expectation for second-round pick last year, Aaron Banks, to step up are really high. I think Aaron Banks might be ready, so hopefully he's waiting in the wings for that opportunity. And then just a couple more to mention briefly, not going to get too far into these. We lost a couple players to Denver, unfortunately. DJ Jones, the most notable. I was really hoping, you know, all season I was saying that we need to re-sign DJ Jones. He stepped in and played a huge role with Kinlaw being out for pretty much all but like 3 games. And, unfortunately, we lost him to Denver. DJ's spent his entire career with the Niners prior to that, but he signs a 3-year, $30 million deal with Denver. So good for him. Go get your money, DJ.
You hate to
10
see a
million
player
season.
that's been with the team though their whole career
Yeah.
leave. That always sucks. Like that's
Yeah,
never nice to see.
Absolutely. And then we also
Unless
lost
they've just
back-
been terrible, then I guess you can maybe
Yeah,
it's
like
different.
I wasn't disappointed to see Jalen Hurd leave, but that's because he never did
Right.
a damn thing for
he
us.
didn't do
other than,
shit.
like,
Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah.
Other than
It's like
show up
Antonio
in one
Gandy Golden
preseason game.
on Washington.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't
Yeah.
do shit, so he got
Yeah.
released.
Yeah, I think he's back though, but we'll see if he's on the 90 man for the offseason. He might be back. And then we also
I think
lost back.
Yeah, we'll see.
He did come back. He did come back at one point.
Yeah, he did. You're right. He did. Yeah.
And then we also lost Tom Compton, offensive lineman Tom Compton, occasional backup and some part-time starter, who in 1 or 2 games handled Aaron Donald quite well. So he's going to Denver as well. And then also Kentavious Street, who was just starting to come on for he had a 3-sack season. He dealt with injury problems as first part of his career, and had 3 sacks for us last year. Finally looked like he was going to be a decent depth signing, and then we lose him to New Orleans, where ironically he was the one that injured Drew Brees and broke Drew Brees' rib to begin with, which kind of started the downfall of the New Orleans Saints. So Kentavious Street now coming full circle, coming back to the Saints, and really, that's all we had, other than I just wanted to mention in closing that obviously everybody pretty I think most of the Niner fans are pretty disappointed that Jimmy's still on the roster because of that $28 million, and that deal hasn't been restructured as of yet. But I will say this. We did manage to free up about just under $19 million in restructuring the deals of George Kittle and Eric Armstead. So we were able to free up a little bit of cap space, even though, and so in that situation, they don't necessarily have to release Jimmy. They could, it's still on the table for him to be traded or released. But, at this point, we've got a little bit of cap space to work with now, so it'll remain to be seen on if he does end up staying as the backup or not, or even if they try to roll him out for another season as the starter. Personally, I don't see it, but
that does seem unlikely, but yeah, and you never know. It's the NFL; anything can happen.
Yeah, but thank you to Eric Armstead and George Kittle for restructuring those deals a little bit, being team players, and
absolutely.
Hopefully, we can get another player or 2 in free agency. We will be back next week to cover all of the Niners news for the week. Hopefully, we have some stuff to report on. Either way, we'll give you guys something. But if you enjoyed this, check out the other clips we have on YouTube, and go Niners.
Go Niners.
And that's actually going to do it for the Extra Point Show this week. Thanks for tuning in and joining us. Hope you guys liked the show. If you did, make sure that you're subscribing to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. So, subscribe for more content. And if you are a Niners fan, also check in for the weekly Niners news update.
And any Commanders fans, remember to check out the Commanders Countdown. We also have other short clips sometimes, about either team if there's various news. But, definitely check that out. And thanks for watching.
Absolutely. Have a good night.